Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to see how China builds cities, India is about to build them, and what happens next. Imagine you buy an apartment in Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, or Hyderabad. Every year the price goes up. Your friends tells you, buy now, it will only become more expensive. So you take a massive loan. The developer build more tower. The government builds roads, metros, and highways. Bank lend more money. People buy more houses, and because prices keeps rising, everyone believes they are getting richer. Sounds familiar? Now imagine that 20 years later, millions of people suddenly stops buying houses. The population starts aging. Young people have fewer children. There are too many apartments. Developer can't sell them. Property prices stop rising. Construction slows. Banks becomes nervous. And suddenly the thing that was supposed to make everyone wealthy becomes one of the biggest problem in the economy. This isn't a fictional story. This is part of what China is dealing with right now. The China spent decades using construction, infrastructure and real estate as major engine of economic growth. At its peak, real estate related activity, including related infrastructure and upstream downstream sectors, accounted for close to one third of aggregated demand. And now, China is going through a prolonged property sector correction. But here is the interesting question. Could India be walking towards a similar economic phenomena? Not tomorrow, not necessarily in the exact same way, but through a completely different route. India is entering the phase China once entered: massive urbanization, rising income, expanding cities, and increasing demand for housing. So, today we are going to compare the two: China's boom, China's slowdown, India's coming urban transformation, and the one mistake India absolutely cannot afford to copy. Now let's see the Chinese dream. To understand India's future, we first need to understand China's past. Go back roughly 2 decades. China was urbanizing at extraordinary speed. Millions of people were moving from rural areas into cities. Factories were expanding, infrastructure was exploding. New highways, new airports, new metro system, new apartment complexes. Entire cities were being transformed, and real estate became much more than just a place to live. It became an economic machine. A developer buys land, the developer borrows money, construction begins, workers get paid, steel and cement are purchased, bank earn interest, local government receive revenue, people buy apartments, and rising property prices makes homeowners feels wealthier. Then they buy cars, furnitures, electronics, restaurants, vacations. The entire economy gets a boost. This is the multiplier effect, and China became extraordinarily good at it. But there was a hidden problem. What happens when you keep building after you already have enough buildings? When the engine becomes too big. This is where the Chinese story becomes fascinating. Real estate wasn't just another sector, it became deeply connected to household wealth, local government finances, construction, infrastructure, and investment. But eventually, demand started changing. China's urbanization was slowing, population growth weakened, birth rates fell, and the country began aging rapidly. The IMF estimates China's old age dependency ratio was about 21.2% in 2024 and could roughly double by 2041. Meanwhile, China's working age population is projected to fall substantially by 2050. That creates a completely different economic environment. Think about a simple apartment. When a city has 10 million people and the next year it has 10.5 million, you need more houses. But what if the population stops growing and then starts shrinking? You can keep building, but eventually someone has to live in those buildings. And this is where China's problem becomes bigger, much bigger than house prices went down. It becomes a problem of overinvestment. Research comparing China with Japan has found striking parallels. Excessive real estate investment can leave an economy with excess supply that takes years to absorb. The property trap. Now, let's simplify the entire problem. Imagine a city needs 1 lakh houses. Developers build 1 lakh 20,000. There, that's not necessarily a disaster. Maybe population grows, maybe incomes increases, maybe demand catches up. But imagine developers keep building 1 lakh 50,000, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, because everyone believes prices will continue rising. Now the economy has a problem. The apartment exists, the debt exists, the construction cost has already been paid, but the buyers aren't there. This is what economists called investment overhang, and China has been dealing with exactly this kind of adjustment. The IMF has highlighted large inventories, weakened home buyers' confidence, and structurally declining demand as major challenges for China's property sector. And when property slows down, the damage doesn't stop at property. The developer earns less, the construction worker earns less, steel demand falls, cement demand falls, furniture demand falls. Bank faces weaker borrowers. Local government loses some land related revenue. Household feel poorer and consumers becomes more cautious. One falling domino hits another. Now look at India. Now let's turn to India, and this is where the entire story becomes much more interesting. Because India is not China. India has a younger population. India is still urbanizing. India has enormous infrastructure needs, and India's cities still have huge unmet housing demands. Historically, India has urbanized more slowly and invested less in urban infrastructure than China did during China's rapid urbanization. This means India has something China eventually lost: room for growth. Millions more Indians are likely to move cities and urban economic centers over time. And as income rises, people want better houses, bigger homes, cars, consumer electronics, restaurants, schools, healthcare, entertainment, financial services. This creates a gigantic economic opportunity. In fact, India's young demographic profile could become a major advantage. Brookings estimates that India's consumer market is significantly younger than China. With India positioned to have one of the world's largest young consumer population. So should India be worried? Not exactly. India should be careful. Because the same force that can make Indian cities richer can also create a property bubble if incentives becomes distorted. The big difference. Here is the most important part of the entire comparison. China has urbanized. India still has to urbanize. That sounds like the same thing. It isn't. China built enormous amount of infrastructure ahead of demand. India historically has often struggled with opposite problem, not enough infrastructure. So, if India builds metros, roads, housing, industry corridors, airports, logistic networks, schools, hospitals, and digital infrastructure, because people actually need them, that's a productive investment. But India, if it starts building empty luxury towers, entire satellite cities with weak employment, apartment purchased only because prices are expected to rise, and infrastructure designed primarily to increase the land price, then the story changes. The problem isn't building too much. The problem is building the wrong thing for the wrong reason. The China's warning India should watch. Here is another important lesson. Don't confuse rising asset prices with rising wealth. Suppose you bought a 50 lakh house. For 5 years later, some says it worth 1 crore. You feel richer. But ask yourself, did the country becomes twice as productive? Not necessarily. If every house in the country in the city becomes twice as expensive, homeowners may feel richer. But someone buying their first home is now paying twice as much. This is why property appreciation by itself isn't economic growth. Real economic growth comes from higher productivity, higher income, better infrastructure, better technology, more efficient businesses, and and producing more valuable goods and services. China's current adjustment demonstrates what happens when an economy becomes overly dependent on investment and property. The IMF's latest assessment says China's traditional growth model faces the challenge from the prolonged property adjustment, local governments, financial pressure, debt, and weak domestic demand. Could India have its own version? Now let's imagine the three possible future. The good future, scenario number one. India's urbanize rapidly, but cities create productive jobs. Infrastructure keeps up. Housing supply matches real demand. Manufacturing expands. Services expand. Household incomes rises. And real estate grow because the economy is growing. That is the dream. The property mania. Now imagine something different. Everyone starts believing Indian real estate can never fall. People buy second and third homes. Investor purchases apartments they don't intend to live in. Developers borrow aggressively. Banks lend aggressively. Land prices explode. Construction becomes one of the biggest economic engine. Everyone feels rich until demand slows. Then prices stops rising, sales fall, debt remains, and suddenly everyone discovers that an asset worth 2 crore only worth 2 crore if someone is willing to pay 2 crore for it. That is the dangerous version. The Indian advantage. But there is a third possibility. India could use China's experience as a warning. Instead of relying excessively on property, India could use urbanization to create productivity, build housing around employment, build transport around population, build infrastructure around economic activity, create manufacturing clusters, make cities more productive, and most importantly, make people richer through income, not merely through an asset inflation. That's the version of the future India should aim for. The demographic clock. And there is one more clock ticking in the background. Demographics. China became older before it became wealthy, as some developed economies. India's currently has a much younger demographic structure. That is an enormous opportunity, but it isn't permanent. Every demographic dividend has an expiry date. Young people becomes middle-aged. Middle-aged people becomes elderly. Birth rate eventually falls, and the economic system has to adapt. China's experience shows how quickly demographics can move from being an advantage to becoming an constraint. So India's opportunity isn't simple. We have 1.4 billion people. The real opportunity is, can 1.4 billion people become significantly more productive? That's a completely different question. The real lesson. So, will India experience China's property crisis? Maybe. But saying India will become China misses the point. India has different institutions, different demographics, different financial structure, different urbanization patterns, different level of development, different consumption patterns, and different policy choices. Even China itself is not simply repeating Japan's experience. Researchers emphasize that China has important differences in its financial system, government structure, and growth potential. So the future isn't predetermined, and that's exactly why this story matters. China gives India something incredibly valuable, not a prediction, a preview. We can watch what happens when urbanization becomes mature, property becomes too important, demographic turns, investment exceeds demand, and consumer becomes cautious. India is currently at a very different stage that gives it time. So the next time you see a massive apartment complex being built, don't just ask how much will this flat be worth in 10 years. Ask a big question: who will live here? Where will they work? How much will they earn? How will they travel? Which will the city have enough infrastructure? Will the building be productive enough to support those salaries? And most importantly, are we building a city because people need it or because we believe land prices will go up? Because that difference could determine whether India's urbanization becomes its greatest economic advantage or whether it eventually creates the same kind of problem China is struggling to solve today. China's story isn't a warning that India must stop building. It's a warning that growth cannot depend forever on building more things. At some point, the building have to produce value. The roads have to connect productive people. The cities have to create productive jobs. And the economy has to make people richer through productivity and income, not just higher asset prices. India may have a once in a generation opportunity ahead. The question isn't whether India will urbanize. It almost certainly will. The question is, what kind of cities will India build and what kind of economy will those cities create? And that may determine India's economic story for the next 30 years. Thank you.